So welcome everyone to the mashup panel. So let's kind of go around and introduce ourselves. I guess we'll just go by the different books. So yeah, Rogue Planet team, you guys are up first.
Well, my name is Cullen Bunn, and I'm the writer of Rogue Planet. I've also written a few books for Only, like The Sixth Gun, and Terrible Lizard, and Shadow Roads.
Great.
I am Andy MacDonald, and I am the artist on Rogue Planet from Oni Press.
The Vein, you guys want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Eliot Rahal. I'm the writer and co-creator on The Vein. This is my first Oni Press book, but I've done other work for like Aftershock and Vault and stuff like that.
I'm Emily Pearson. I'm the artist on The Vein. It's my first Oni Press book as well. I did previous stuff for Black Mass, mostly The Wilds and Snap Flash Hustle.
And then Backtrack. You guys are up.
Hi, I'm Brian Joins. I'm the writer of Backtrack, and this is my first Oni book. Previously, I've done books like Krampus at Image and Imagine Agents over at Boom Studios.
Hello, I'm Jake Elphick, and I'm the illustrator on Backtrack, my first Oni book. I've previously done work with the WWE for Boom Studios and some other titles for Titan Comics as well.
I'm Doug Garbark. I'm the colorist on Backtrack. I've also worked on WWE through Boom, Mountainhead through IDW, and DC Bombshells.
Cool. And I'm Jasmine Amiri. I'm an editor here at Oni. So let's kick things off. Kind of want to do like an icebreaker group question. What is everyone's like favorite mashup? And this could be, you know, like a comic or TV or movie or like a song or like food or like an invention like the spork. Kind of want everybody to kind of like talk to each other, mash all you guys up to.
Well, I will say, I was trying to think of something else, not to put anyone on the spot, but honestly, when I read the question, one of my favorite comics of the last 10 years was The Sixth Gun. So, Cullen, it's awesome.
Brian's my favorite in this.
Thank you. Thanks. I really hated that. I'm just trying to score points. But no, I mean, it's a perfect mashup of Westerns, which I love, and you don't see a lot of in comics, and horror, and just like horror from all over the place, you know, mummies and whatnot. It was exactly hit like so many sweet spots for me. So that'd be my favorite.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else likes The Sixth Gun?
Yeah, how about you, Cullen? What's your favorite mashup?
So I'm also going to say a Western mashup, because I was sitting here trying to think what is sort of the first thing that pops to my mind. There was a novella written by Joe Lansdale called Dead in the West, which was it was published by Space and Time, which is a very small publisher, and I think they've done comic book adaptations of it since then. But it was sort of a zombie Western story, and I must have read that thing until the covers fell off. I mean, I read it over and over. It was absolutely one of the influences for The Sixth Gun, and my first professional sale, that's something I got paid for, was a short story that was absolutely an homage to Dead in the West. And I'm thankful that the magazine folded before it ever published it, because it was an awful short story. It was really bad. But so I'm going to stick with that, I guess. I mean, I could probably list them all day long if I really thought about it, but Dead in the West comes to mind first.
Good one. Who else?
I was just going to say the playlist I actually listened to for about 14 hours a day while creating Backtrack. It's got a bit of Black Sabbath in there. So I'll be listening to like metal one moment, and then the next there's James Brown, and then I just go on this adventure of music throughout the entire day with a lot of T-Rex thrown in and funk and soul. It kind of just sees off every page quite nicely. But there's pretty much every genre between jazz, soul, funk, all the way up to like post-punk, metal, core. It's all there, and it's all I need.
That's awesome. I do that too. I have like a whole section on my Spotify that's just like playlists for every book I've ever worked on.
Yeah, on the left-hand side, you've got like playlists that you've created or playlists that you follow.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is like easily about 4 or 5 scrolls down, where I'm just accumulating all of this playlist material to work with while I'm actually concentrating on the pages.
It's amazing. Yeah. Anyone else? We can move on to specific questions if not. I'll go for it, Eliot.
I've been panicking. So all I can think of is Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School for some reason. So, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, Andy, Emily, you guys have anything?
The most like true mashup, like, because I went through a list of things that seemed like mashups, then a lot of them were like comics and movies, and I just came to the conclusion that like basically every comic is a mashup of something, and comics are their own thing, and like if anything, they're supposed to do that. So like I went to like music. Probably the most direct mashup that I actually really love is the Enter the Magical Mystery Chambers. It's a mashup of Wu-Tang Clan and the Beatles, and it's really well done. And I recommend it to anyone if they haven't heard it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like Under Pressure, like the David Bowie and the Queen song. It's just like that's like the perfect mashup song for me. Yeah.
I was just I went with like movies and the genre mashups, like horror and sci-fi and horror and comedy, stuff like that, like The Thing, Dale and Tucker, stuff like that. Always seems to be good.
Yeah, I feel like horror comedy is like a really big thing lately. Like It and Midsommar. I feel like those movies got a lot of laughs in theaters, which is pretty cool.
I didn't laugh at Midsummer not once. That movie disturbed me on a very deep level. But I appreciate horror comedy because I feel like lately I'm running out of I watch a lot of horror movies, obviously, but I feel like I'm running out of horror movies that have sort of a fun vibe to them. I don't want something super, especially around Halloween. I want something a little lighter and a little more fun. But I feel like I've run out of all my fun horror movies. So yeah, horror comedy is awesome.
Yeah.
It's nice to laugh at the terrible things.
Yes.
Yeah, takes the edge off. All right, well, I'm going to get into the questions then. Rogue Planet. So Cullen, I mean, you are known in comics as like one of the most prolific horror writers. Prolific, wow, just made up that word. Prolific horror writers that we have. What drew you to setting this one in space?
Science fiction and horror is something that's always been important to me. Alien is probably Alien and The Thing tie as my favorite horror movies. And then and then there's movies like Event Horizon and things like that just that really fuse those genres in a big way. And I came up with the idea for Rogue Planet. I remember it really clearly because I was sitting with my frequent collaborator Brian Hurt at Powell's Books, and it was like a picture book of science fiction movie posters or science fiction book covers. And I was flipping through it and I looked at Brian and I said, I'm going to do a horror science fiction title and it's going to be called Rogue Planet. And the next week I wrote the pitch for Rogue Planet out. But that's when I was just looking through pictures. It was like, I don't know if you guys remember, Chris Foss used to do these amazing spacescapes and pictures of spaceships blasting through space. And I used to check those books out at my library over and over again. And I was probably more of a science fiction kid than a horror kid. And so that love of science fiction's never left me. But then, now, but I've gravitated more towards the darker stories. So it's just a perfect fusion for me.
That's really cool. It's also cool that you came up with the title like right off the bat. I feel like that's the hardest part for some people.
Well, yeah, that title came about really quickly. And what really bummed me out quite a bit, because this book's been in the works for a while. I came up with it a long time ago, and then they did Marvel did an Avengers title that had it was like Rogue Planet, and it really upset me that there was another title out there after that came out after Rogue Planet was pitched to Oni and before the comic came out. But I came up with it first, so I don't care. Whatever.
Nice. Also, what is the thing behind you?
This guy?
Yeah.
That's it's Sam from the movie Trick or Treat.
Okay.
So this
The movie rules.
Terrifying. Cool.
yeah.
Fantastic.
So we bought him for Halloween last year, but I like him so much I just put him in my office because he's so cool looking.
He is pretty cool. So Andy, the monsters are a really big part of this book, and they look terrifying and disgusting. And I want to know, where did you draw inspiration from for those?
Yeah, a lot of it came from Alien and The Thing just being movies that I like, and then I think that they have this right balance of science fiction and horror. But after a certain point, you kind of have to let everything go and start thinking about what's gross and terrifying, and you start mining your nightmares for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, spoiled meat. I don't know. trip to the aquarium, maybe.
That's pretty cool. So if you guys were in a space horror situation, how long do you think you'd realistically survive?
Andy.
I'd probably go first. Typically, characters named Andy are first or second to go. So that's just by name. Usually the second one to go is named Andy. You kind of root for him, but he's not going to make it. So, probably out an airlock.
Brutal.
Or crushed in a door.
I probably threw you out that airlock.
Yeah. Cullen survived just through.
Just pure jerkiness. I think I die as well, but I'm like the guy you are pretty sure is going to get you through it. I mean, I'm the Dallas of any horror movie I'm in. I mean, I'm probably going to die, but I'm also the one that everybody thinks is going to get you through. I mean, I'm the guy you can lean on. But if I don't die, it's not scary for the rest of you because I'll get you out of it. So
Nice. Yeah, whenever I watch those space movies, I'm just I would die immediately. This is a nightmare situation. All right, well, we're going to switch gears to Backtrack. Let's see, because of the nature of this book, we're going to a bunch of different locations and kind of dip into a bunch of different genres. And each issue almost has a third genre outside of being a car race and time travel. So Brian, what were the challenges in blending more than two genres at once?
Beyond the research, I would say probably just trying to, you want to make sure you serve all three masters well enough, and you want to make sure that I was trying to make each of the time periods they jump to especially relevant to what is happening in the book, rather than just, oh, it's a Western, let's put them in the Old West, stuff like that. I think what ultimately helps is to approach it from the characters themselves, because it's always the characters reacting to the situations they're in, and they're reacting to the race, they're reacting to the time travel component, and then they're reacting to whatever time they find themselves in. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just more of a, that was the best way for me to kind of make sure everything was done properly, was to kind of just make them wig out. By the time they reach a certain level, they're already used to the racing. I mean, they're there expecting to race. They're used to time travel at least 3 or 4 issues in, and now it's just a matter of them reacting to whatever time they find themselves in. And that's just one added layer of freak out for them.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, Jake and Doug, you guys kind of had the task of having to come up with, 10 almost completely different books within one book. We had so many different locations from, like pirates to the future. What was your favorite one to draw and color, and why?
For me, I would say issue number 1. And I think that's because I think it's still just always going to have a place in my heart, because it was the beginning of what has been a fantastic journey on Backtrack, not just for me as an artist and developing as the story unfolds, but also for the racers. I kind of feel like this was the first time that I met them, and getting to know their personalities and their mannerisms, and finding a way that their personalities and mannerisms can impact the way that they dress and the way that they behave on the page. It took quite a lot of designing in its preliminary stages. And for me as an artist, I think that that's probably the funnest part of a book, is getting something that is just writing and then turning it into something visual that people can connect to in the concept stages. So I'd say issue 1 predominantly for that reason, but also because, and this is a little nod to Brian, I really loved the pacing throughout the entirety of at least the first half of issue 1 as we're approaching the first time hop. I just felt like the way that was written, it was kind of like you knew the time hop was going to happen, and it was kind of like this, it was like a bubbling towards it happening. That was really fun for me to explore and illustrate along the way.
And Doug, how about you?
Well, for me, the main thing I focused on in the first issue was trying to keep the colors organized for each racer, for each car, each time period they go to, the time loop. I need everything to be like a unique palette, so that people, as soon as they see it, they know like we're in a different place, or we're back in the time loop, or like, I try to use, for like the background behind the characters for action, I try to use a lot of color that'll be like the same color as the car that they're in, so people can kind of get an idea like what car belongs to who. Because first issue, it's just like everything's kind of coming at you, and I'm trying to, from a color standpoint, I'm just trying to make it easy to read, easy to follow. But for my favorite issue, I think I like the pirate one the best, man. I really enjoy that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you put a lot of like effort into researching what like the lighting would look like realistically in like a pirate tavern. Like where did you like find that?
I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean. I was watching Black Sails. I played Assassin's Creed, Black Flag. I was in Sea of Thieves. I went all out. It just gave me an excuse to watch a bunch of pirate stuff and play a bunch of pirate games. So, I got into it.
Research.
Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, I mean, when this book was first pitched to me, Brian, you were like, this is kind of like Fast and the Furious with time traveling. So I wanted to ask all 3 of you, if you guys could cross the Fast and the Furious universe with any other universe, which one would it be?
I was thinking about this, and I think I'd probably like to do Star Trek. Just because I have this vision of like Toretto and the entire family living on like a tricked out Enterprise they built from scrap, and like Hobbs joins Starfleet and he's after these guys, and there's a big battle, and somehow they've rigged like nitrous to the warp core so it goes like just a little faster than warp 8, and Tyrese just freaks out at any new alien or any new situation they find themselves in. So
oh my gosh,
it'd be Star Trek for me.
Yeah, I want to hear Spock say "hit the nos" now. How about you guys?
I really quite like the idea of Fast and Furious meets The Walking Dead, because if you think about it, when the 2 universes join, it would just be one universe where they have no choice but to race. Because if you stop, you've already drawn so much attention to yourself that you're just going to get eaten. So they would have to sort of plan their gas stops really carefully, and when they stop off to get their weekly shop. And I just think it'd be a really fun kind of way of also putting this post-apocalyptic design on the cars. You know, have you ever seen, obviously, Dawn of the Dead, where they escape from the mall and they got the chainsaws coming out the side of the van?
That's my favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that would just be I can just imagine being the funnest thing to design. And if Brian, if you're into that, I'm 100% thumbs up to get going on that.
All right, well, we'll talk after this.
Nice. How about you, Doug?
I always like the first Fast and the Furious movie the best, even though it's like not as action as the other ones. I liked, you know, when they were hanging out and they were like, you know, developing the family and all that, and, you know, just drinking beers. So I would put them with the Sons of Anarchy and have them try to get, you know, some type of heist and go against each other, turn into a big bloody shootout, hopefully, you know.
Amazing. Cool. Well, then let's head over to the vein now. So with vampire fiction, you know, you guys are oftentimes like blending like beauty and elegance with like gore and violence. And I was wondering, like, what was it like blending those two visually, Emily?
Oh man, it was fun. I think a lot of the way the comic works is that the gore and the violence and the horror parts of it kind of come out of nowhere. So it was kind of fun to have, like, you know, this cool, elegant book in the 40s about this group of friends, and then there's something suddenly that really gory happens. And then, like, I remember working on it, and like Eliot and Robin were just like pushing me to make it as gory as possible. And it was really fun to try to, like, oh man, I'm gonna, like, I have a couple of like my family members that are just gonna send me emails after this. It's
Yeah, there's a pretty brutal scene in issue 1.
Yeah.
That I feel like it kind of comes out of nowhere. I'm pretty excited to be able to read that.
Yeah.
And Eliot, yeah, I mean, you kind of took like the nature of vampires and how they live for a really long time and created this really cool story that just like dips into specific parts of history, like in the last 100 years. What drew you to the specific eras that you focused on throughout the story?
Yeah, so, and Emily, you did a great job. You know, it's a noir story, I think, first, where the horror elements come out of, you know, left field a little bit as flavoring. And so, and a lot of the story is kind of told through the timeline of like this FBI agent, and it's like a story of obsession. And so, as I looked through the different decades, you know, kind of looked for the hot spots of, like, you know, what was the most chaotic place in the world in that specific decade that would work for my story. And so, like, you know, in the 40s, obviously, you know, Europe in 1940s is this very chaotic, horrible place. In the 50s, I put them in Cuba because, like, you have the whole Cuban Missile Crisis and the whole, like, just like sort of shadow Cold War thing going on. And then in the 60s, you know, I put them in California, and 70s, you know, in the 70s too, but in two different locations when I put them in, like, you know, sort of Haight-Ashbury, and then the other, like, sort of the 70s Hollywood, where, like, you know, it's like Charles Manson kind of stuff, you know, and like, and because I just think those are like really poignant places in time, and vampires, like the way these characters are like nihilistically free, and so like they're attracted to chaos, and chaos is what like either they bring or attracts them and like blankets them in a way. And also those places are just fun to write about.
Mm-hmm. For the issue that takes place in Hollywood, did you come up with that before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, or was that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate timing, isn't it? But you know, whatever. I mean, it's not like, you know, I'm better than Quentin Tarantino. I'll say it. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm not weird with feet. No, okay. But no, I mean, I just like that era. I love true crime. Like, true crime is a huge genre. I mean, I'm obsessed with like Charlie Manson and like just like the whole Manson family and like how all of that stuff happened. And so like, and I love like learning about like cults and stuff like that. And like just like sort of these weird human groups and with like that are very small but have like this really crazy high stakes drama to them, you know. And so I was gonna put that in no matter what. And then I wanted to directly juxtapose like, you know, the height of the hippie movement and like Haight-Ashbury and like flower power was real for like a year, and then like juxtapose it with like the grimy 70s, like just the awfulness that it like all was and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. So I wanted to ask you both, who are your favorite vampires of all time in any work of fiction?
I like Cassidy from Preacher. I like all of the Lost Boys, but specifically Kiefer Van Sutherland and the Count from Sesame Street.
They're good picks. How about you, Emily?
Thank you.
It's a weird answer, but I really like all of the vampires from What We Do in the Shadows. That's like one of my favorite vampire stories. And I think I was watching the show last night, and I was just remembering that like you look like Eliot, you kind of look like one of the vampires from that story. I don't know if you've ever been told that before.
It's a real bummer.
It's not. It's really cool.
I have. I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know.
I would take it as a compliment. I think it's a good thing.
Great. This is the first time I've ever seen you in person, by the way, Emily. I've never
Really?
ever seen a picture ever, not once.
That's that's really weird to think about because we've been working
I
together.
know. It's been blowing my mind. Yeah.
I mean, I also like, oh my god, the vampire from Queen of the Damned is like one of the coolest girls ever. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I used to watch that movie like every weekend growing up.
Yeah.
Best soundtrack ever, too. Cool. So I'm going to ask you guys a bonus question because it is October. What are you guys, or what was your best ever Halloween costume? I'm just going to kind of go in the order that we went in for these questions. So Andy and Cullen, you guys are first.
Go, Andy.
It was probably, I don't know if it was the best, but it was definitely the most well done. I think it was like 6 years old or 5 or something, and somehow I knew I couldn't go as the Incredible Hulk because it was too cold and we didn't have access to that much green body paint. But so it was like my mom put in like a lot of work into a Lone Ranger outfit. And I don't think I even knew who the character was, but I realized that like she knew who it was, so like, and put a lot of work into it. So that was probably the best. The rest were just a smattering of me being lazy and half costumes.
Cullen?
Yeah, I think most of my costumes were either like the plastic mask that that has the really stiff plastic mask when I was a kid, or they were really lazy. But about 20 years ago, I decided I was going to go as Snake Plissken to a Halloween party. And I knew I was going to be wearing a sleeveless shirt. So I worked out for like 6 months like a maniac. And because I don't work out, working out for a little while really had like a great effect for a while. So I was working out like a maniac because I was going to be wearing a sleeveless shirt and leather pants from Hot Topic. And I really wanted to sell the whole Snake Plissken concept. And I bought myself a wig, and I had the patch, and it was I looked really good as Snake Plissken. And then I had a hamburger that night, and the next day, all the effort I put into working out was undone. It was all gone. I was back to this. So I feel like for 6 months, healthy me it wasn't the Snake Plissken. It was the healthy version of me was the costume I wore for 6 months. And then I took it off on Halloween night.
That's amazing, and I want to see pictures of that, please.
I think I probably still have some somewhere.
So Team Backtrack, you guys are up next.
Well, I don't want to touch a raw nerve for Elliot, but last year I went as Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I found the perfect wig because follically I could never pull it off. We just know that. But I found the perfect wig, and I'm not one for cosplay or that sort of thing really. But when it comes to Halloween, I get so OCD. I've spent like hundreds and hundreds of dollars over the years trying to get like the costumes just right. So last year I just, I was working with a trainer, so I'd lost some weight, and I got everything together, got the perfect wig, and it was fantastic. And went to a party with a bunch of friends, and maybe 2 people knew who the hell I was. But you know what? I knew who I was, and that's what mattered.
You knew, yeah.
Yeah. Gotta do it for yourself.
Yes.
How about you, Jake?
I think mine's probably Forrest Gump, but not the Forrest Gump that immediately comes to mind. The one sitting on the bench with the box of chocolates, who's freshly shaved with a nice haircut. I went as the Forrest Gump that had been running for 3 months, and when I arrived at the party, it was my brother's party a couple of years ago, and when I arrived, everyone was like, "You look amazing! Oh my gosh, you did such a great job with this. You look just like him." And so, first of all, I'm pretty insulted by that because wow, I look like I've been running for 3 months, and then it was only till later in the evening that everyone started going, yeah, well, I struck up another conversation with a guy, and he said, yeah, I didn't realize you were a fan of his. I was like, a fan of Forrest Gump? I mean, I don't know, he's a dude from a movie, like it's a good movie, I guess. And he was like, no, oh, I thought you came as Little Dicky. And I mean, a few people have said it to me, but it was only when I was actually dressed like I was homeless that people kind of made that connection. And I don't know. I guess I was proud of the costume, but for all of the wrong reasons is what I'm taking from that.
I don't know if it's more insulting to you or Little Dicky.
Yeah, let's just hope this doesn't go out to him, because I could have him angry on my back.
How about you, Doug?
I don't really have one that's like super memorable, but my favorite time was when I was in college and me and a bunch of friends watched Kingdom of Heaven, and we decided to go as Templar Knights, and we just went to all these parties and we were just yelling stupid quotes like, God wills it, this caravan is unarmed or whatever. Just, getting everyone crazy and drinking. It was a good time, but the costume was like a sheet with I think we used a red Sharpie to make a cross on it or something. It took like, $5.
Group costumes are the best, especially when everyone gets into it and just like yelling. Oh, so good. Eliot and Emily.
Little Nicky is highly underrated in my opinion, so it's a good thing. It's a very good movie. 25 pounds ago, I made a good Ash from Army of Darkness. I was really into Evil Dead in college, so that's mine.
Epic.
I think for me, it was kind of weird, but in high school, me and my friend were playing this video game a lot of the time called Team Fortress 2. And so we both dressed up as one of the characters from it. It's a Scout, if anyone's familiar with it. And so we were just, it looked really stupid because I'm 6'2", and they're like 5'1", so we just had this big and small version of the same character, like walking around the school in this exact same outfit.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's like that "don't talk to me or my son ever again."
Exactly.
Well, yeah, that wraps up our panel, I guess. So happy Halloween, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you guys for being on this.